Hey guys, today we have Frank Leon here on the show, and he's going to be talking about this Brooklyn deal that he got creative, which sub two, right? We got a sub two, so we're going to be talking about all the details, how he got it, and how he's still doing business here in New York. So thanks, Frank, for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, so I think we want to really get into all the nitty gritty stuff, right? Because we're in New York, right? And a lot of people don't do business here because they're like, oh, it's too expensive. There's nothing here. You can't do creative, right? So can you tell us how you have found this deal in general?
Well, everyone knows that I do business in New York, or I reside in New York.
Yeah.
So I went to every single meetup. I introduced myself and let them know I have a background in mortgages. I have a background in lending, and I try to provide value.
Yeah.
So, but from that, a lot of people in sub two are like, hey, it's a New York deal. Talk to Frank. He might know what to do. I have a network of attorneys. I have a network of lenders. And I look at a problem and see if I can solve it, or offer some type of solution, or lead you to the person that could solve it.
Right.
And from that, organically it generates into business or a deal or whatever the case may be.
Yeah, that's awesome. So so I think a lot of people are like, oh, I don't know what attorneys are gonna do it and this, but it seems like you just built already a network of relationships
Absolutely.
like that.
So I was a loan officer for about 12 years in my former life.
Yeah.
And then after that, I was a branch manager, a vice president for a big bank in Queens. So between those two things, I've made enough connections, attorneys, title companies, lenders, borrowers, and I made a reputation for myself as a person that's knowledgeable in mortgages. So I was on a lot of boards for non-for-profits for housing.
Yeah.
So between all that, I have people to reach out to in New York, where I'm not like you said, it's very difficult to talk about. I don't know where to go. I don't know who to talk to.
Yeah.
Who's the expert here? And I can figure it out by myself in that sense.
That's good. Yeah, especially because you need that kind of network. You need a foundation. You cannot do a deal by yourself or anywhere,
Absolutely.
Even if it's in New York, right? Like I'm doing Georgia, right? So I had to have an agent that I trust, an attorney that I trust, and it's that team that can do that. So with that, so this deal that you found, right? Well, let's talk about how did you find this specific deal?
Okay. Someone posted, I would say late September, hey, I have a family member about to lose their house. They're willing to walk away in New York, Brooklyn. Who can help?
Yeah.
That's it.
Me.
I'm like, absolutely. I raised my hand right away.
Yeah.
So we're both in the same mentorship sub two.
Okay.
And we do a lot of creative finance, or we talk about different types of deals in other states.
Yeah.
And New York is a bit difficult because it's an attorney state.
Yeah.
Right? So every deal, whether it's wholesale, whether it's sub two, whether it's seller finance, you still need to go through an attorney.
Yeah.
So everybody just, I don't do New York. So there's a handful of us like you and I and others in the group that we know that might tackle a New York deal. And, I raised my hand first.
Yeah. So, you got it first. Yeah,
and that's how I got the lead. And from there, I talked to the person, and she referred me to her dad, who was a gatekeeper. Then the dad referred me to his brother, who was the next gatekeeper. And then I finally found the owner, who happened to live 10 minutes away from me.
Oh my God, look at that.
It was made it happen.
Yeah, it was meant to be. But I think that's important too, that you said you talk to this person, I talk to that person, because I think a lot of people, right, they'll present a deal and then you find out okay, that's a wholesaler who got it from this person. Who's that person? Who's the decision maker, right?
You want to know, I needed to know from the person what the issue was.
Right.
And she gave me something, but she had no contact with them. So it's a lead. It's basically like a bird dog, right?
Yeah.
So as a person that found someone needs something on a house, and then she referred me to someone who was a little more knowledgeable on the fact that was her dad.
Yeah.
And he gave me something of what he knew on the deal. But until I met with the owner himself, I really didn't know what the issues were. And then once I did, then it was easy to start thinking about, well, we have these options.
So what was the biggest problem? And how did you figure out what the solution would have been?
Well, once I got their address, I gave them a call. I talked to them. I was like, hey, do you mind giving me the address? I'd love to look up the house to see what's going on.
Right.
And he was like, well, I can meet you today at 11. I'm like, fantastic.
Perfect.
Yeah, so it was 9 in the morning when I spoke to them.
Yeah.
So I got on Acris, which is, online system to search to see for judgment liens and whatnot in New York City. And I started seeing what the issues were with the house. So I pulled up everything I could. So when I went over there, I was pretty prepared.
Yeah.
So then we started discussing, well, what happened? like, what do you want to do here?
Yeah.
And then I let them fill in the blanks.
Got it. Yeah, because you kind of need to know like what is the core problem, and then how you can provide whatever solutions you can from there.
Yes, absolutely. So it seemed to me like it was a home that was neglected. It was inherited, neglected. They kind of lived there, but they didn't even have utilities on. So I can tell. I was like, all right, well, what's the end game here? What do you guys want to do? He was like, I just don't want to deal with these problems.
Right.
I'm like, well, you can make money on the deal, right?
Yeah,
Like,
exactly.
so they told me, he inherited it. The owner inherited it from his mom, and him and his brother had inherited the property, and his brother had recently passed. So it was just him.
Wow. Yeah.
So I'm looking up title, and I looked up chain of title to see how the ownership progressed. So he had done the right things, and he had gone to attorneys, but the family attorney had passed away too, so he didn't know what to do.
Oh God. So everybody.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's terrible.
So he's telling me I have bad credit, I don't know how to maneuver in this. I talked to someone, they offered me like 10 grand. I don't know what to do here. I owe 50,000 in taxes on the house. I owe 20,000. So he started showing me all the bills. And I'm like, I'm going to help you.
Yeah.
So I was there with them for 2 hours, just going over what I think we could do.
Right.
And then I was like, do you have some free time? Let's go see the house.
Yeah.
And then I went to see the house.
See, like instantly. But that's good. So they didn't necessarily have a mortgage on it, but they had other liens.
Yeah. So their mom, she must have been really on top of the finances. She paid off the mortgage fast.
Okay.
So this is a type of home, where when banks go into a community and just build like almost railroad houses,
Yeah.
same material, manufacturing it, and just putting up different walls, and they'll just do a block at a time.
Yeah.
One of those type of houses.
Okay.
So I think they got in for about 100,000.
Oh wow.
So they paid it off super fast. She was really on top of it.
Yeah.
And now it was with someone else. And like the son really didn't have an aptitude for maintaining the house, maintaining the bills. And he got the property, but he didn't have the financial literacy to go along with that.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
he was about to lose everything.
Oh God.
And luckily I stepped in time, and now we're in a good deal where he's gonna come out, with a couple of $100,000.
Yeah.
So I want to talk about that. Like, how are you? Because someone would normally say, all right, hey, let me see the house. Oh, it looks horrible condition. I'll offer you this much. Here, take the little money and walk away.
Yep.
But I want to know like how you're structuring this, and more like a partnership than you just taking the house from him for a small amount.
So what I did, I was like, look, let's look it up how I would a regular house. So I showed him.
Yeah.
I'm like, this is how I would compare a house. I'm like, this would be in good condition. And I came up with a 530 valuation, and I had a couple of realtors in the group do some CMAs for me.
Nice.
Right? Now, if it's in a hard market, in a good market where, a seller controls it, maybe 600. But right now,
Right.
rates are high. So let's say
Yeah.
530, 550,
Right, but
whatnot, conservative. And then I started deducting costs. And I'm like, let's look at what's wrong with the house.
Yeah.
So we did a walkthrough. I'm like, this is wrong. And by the time we went to the basement, a lot of problems. Yeah, like that's where the real money was going to be spent.
Right.
They had made a makeshift bathroom. It was framed
Yeah.
out, but the water was still. I'm like, oh
There was a
man.
lot of little
Yeah, no, there's a lot of big things,
Right.
but the bones and the upstairs were really, really good. So I'm like, you know what? I could do this, and I can do 320, and I can do but from the 320, you're gonna have to pay all these fees for this stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
What do you want to do? And he was like, well, he started thinking about it, and he was discussing with his uncle, and he was like, can you just pay them for me? And I'm comfortable walking away with this much. So he gave me a range from 220 to 190. I'm like, we'll be in the middle of that.
Yeah. Let's meet him out. Yeah.
Let's meet in the middle. It's fair for you. It's fair for me.
Yeah.
But I'm gonna throw something in on top of that.
Right.
I'm gonna teach you what you should be doing with that money. So I started showing him some of the deals I was working on,
Yeah.
and some of the lending partnerships, and
Right.
little by little he started seeing it, started opening his eyes. I'm like, your money should be making you money.
Right.
I'm like, because he didn't have any idea what to do with his money. So he gave me his goals, and we wrote them out.
Yeah.
And I was showing him what he could do to achieve those goals.
Wow.
So that's where the partnership.
Yeah, that's when I came in. And that's important because I think like a lot of people, their thing is like, oh, I want to get it for the cheapest rate, right? Because I have to flip it or whatever I'm going to do with it. They think their profit margin. But to say, okay, like let's partner on this, and then build that long-term relationship, right? Because I'm sure now in the future, once he has that money, now you can do another deal with him, maybe even, or just be able to help him lend. So that's really good. So what is that process going to look like now when you're going to have to do some renovations to it, right? So how is that role? Like, is he easily going to be out of that? And like, does he understand like what goes into that?
Good question. So I looked at every possible solution that I could think of, and I was thinking maybe I could fix and flip.
Yeah.
That's the first thing that comes to mind. Or fix and hold. Maybe, refinance out and whatnot and still pay him out.
Yeah.
But based on what I was getting from contractors and how hard it is to get money, because I wanted to do it all creative. So it was difficult to get some of the money to start everything right away. So if I get added to title or and deed, then I would need a 3-month seasoning to be able to get funding from almost every lender. So unless I want to pay an arm and a leg for no seasoning, right? So either way, I'm screwed. So I'm like, you know what? Let me put it out there. I want to see what an investor would pay for this. So I met a couple of realtors in the group, a couple of wholesalers, and I gave them a shot.
Yeah.
And we found a buyer in 4 days.
Really?
Wow. So you already have a buyer lined up for this. You don't need to do any
Contract.
work.
You were in contract.
Yes.
Wow.
Fully executed. EMD non-refundable, $22,500.
Wow.
We're clearing title as we speak.
Wow. So someone's buying this as is, whatever. You don't have to do any work into it.
Correct.
You already have. Wow. So what is their end? What are they paying you to buy this deal?
$455,000.
Wow. That's insane. So now how is that structure like with the owner, right? So you have to pay off the water liens. There's water liens on it. There's tax liens.
Yep. So I estimate everything with every judgment on the house about 80.
Okay.
He's probably going to walk away with 195, 197. And so let's call it 200, right?
Yeah.
So 280 right there.
Round up, yep.
Yep. Closing costs, let's call it 12, maybe 15.
Yeah,
right?
in New York is
Yeah, so we're on what? What's
Yeah.
that? 295?
yeah.
And
It's
then,
about.
well, let's call it 3, right?
Let's go 3, and
So
so
now-
someone's at 455, right?
455.
Right. So,
So-
that's like 155,000.
Correct. So now I'm paying the person that found me the buyer 12.5, the person that generated the lead 20, and I keep the rest.
Wow. That's incredible. See, that's it right there. And you didn't have to do any work. You didn't have to screw over the seller too, right? So it's like a truly example that everybody could eat.
Well, I love how you just said that. Everybody can eat.
Yeah.
So I want to show that, hey, you got me a lead. Great
Yeah.
job. Here's what you're
Right.
making money on this.
Right.
The person that found me the buyer, he's a brand new sub-2 student
Oh, wow.
who's a realtor who just showed me a property that it wasn't going to work for us.
Yeah.
But I mentioned what I was working on, and he was like, I might have a buyer for you.
That's crazy.
And he was like, so he told me, how much would you pay me? What do you want? He was like, I don't even know what to ask. You know what? I'm going to give you a fair offer. I'm going to give you 12.5. And he was like, his eyes lit up. His eyes lit up, and he was like, oh my God, I paid for the whole mentorship like that.
Yeah, I was gonna say that.
Yeah, so that's it.
Back, right?
So he was super hyped.
Yeah.
And it seemed like a deal for everyone to know that it's possible in New York.
Yeah.
And that I did it with maybe $1,000 out of pocket.
Right.
And that's it.
Insane.
So I'm like,
Yeah.
so we were able to do the right thing for the owner, do the right thing for us.
Yeah.
And a lot of people, are helping in the deal, and everyone's going to get paid.
Right.
So it takes a team.
It
Right?
does.
It takes a
Yeah,
team.
yeah. You
So
can't
we
do it
want
yourself.
to, we want to be able to do it. We want to be able to show that you could do a creative deal, but you don't have to take someone's money or take someone's
Right.
business or whatever. Everybody should eat, and if everybody eats, everybody's full, and everybody want to keep working together.
Yes. Yeah. And
You can sleep at night knowing that I didn't just get paid $300,000. Now they got something,
Yeah, I could
right?
kill that.
Yeah,
I
you
could
could've
kill.
just got
Yeah,
everything,
But
paid
I'm
off
not
the
trying.
liens and-
Yeah, I'm not trying to be that guy. I'm not built that way.
Yeah,
And
that's
they got me a new referral.
Yeah, and then now you have a relationship with him, right? Now you guys can lend together. Now he can and now he learned something, right? And he didn't just lose the house, right? And I think that's a lot of things that we're trying to do is teach people more about finance and keeping the wealth. But at least now he may not have that asset, but now he has money to buy another one and do it more purposefully now.
Yeah. So he's around my age, and we started discussing, family, our elders. He helps take care of his dad. I help take care of my mom.
Right.
He has a son. I have a son. So I'm like, I'm teaching my kid financial literacy.
Yeah.
It's not really taught in school the way it should be.
It's not.
So he was telling me, I worry about my kid. I worry about my son that way, and I'm like, I'd love to teach you, man. Like if I can give you something, and then you can pass it off to your family. I think that's what your mom was trying to do, or the spirit of what she was trying to do. And if I can be that bridge for you, yeah, I'd love to be that. Like I get a lot from helping someone or teaching them what it is that we're doing here, so that they can teach their family and generational wealth. Yeah, look, like teaching the values. Like you want to help people and make money at the same time.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, it could be done together. It doesn't have to be one or the other.
Yeah, it really doesn't. But I do want to talk about just doing business in New York, right, in general, and doing a deal like that. It's a lot of people aren't doing creative, and a lot of attorneys are like, no, I'm not doing traditional. Have you did you hit a roadblock with getting attorneys for that, or was it pretty? Yeah, you did. Okay.
So I looked up. I want to use a downstate attorney. I have a bunch of upstate attorneys. I've done sub-twos in Buffalo, near Rochester, Binghamton. So I've done them there, but not downstate. Some attorneys said that they would do them, but every deal I look at, I'm not going to do a sub-two just to do a sub-two. It's possible, but you're not going to do that, right? It has to make sense for everyone. Now, I found some attorneys who are they're not wholesale friendly. So they want me to give them a $5,000 retainer, or they want to, and I get it. Everybody wants to get paid because creative deals die really fast because you're using your imagination to try to figure out how to make a deal work. But I knew I had a deal. So I called an old attorney from a friend of mine who I've done work with in the past. She was like, I'd love to be part of it. I've known her for 20 years. And she's like, I'll charge you whatever you want me to charge you. I'll do the title work, and let's do it. And I want to learn.
And she wants to learn.
So
amazing.
So now we're trying to partner on something upstate.
Oh, nice. And she's gonna want to do it.
But no, it's her deal. So the creative deal for her, and she's trying to figure out how to do it. I'm like, I can get the capital for that.
Yeah.
Oh, see, that's awesome. And you see what I'm saying? It's all a triple effect too. It's relationships. If you have long-lasting relationship that's not just transactional, it goes way further, right? Because if you worked with her 20 years ago and it was just all right, that's it, we're done. You kept that going, and then now you need her all these years later.
So she calls me for a lot. So she knows I used to do mortgages. Yeah. So some people have me in that box, I'm a loan officer, right? Right. Other people knew me as a branch manager, so they have me in that box. So they call me for banking questions. But I consider myself more of a problem solver, a connector, a capital raiser. I wear a couple of different hats, but I'm not a loan officer or a branch manager. That's not anymore. Old life. Yeah. So I'm in this space, and I still get those calls, and I'm like, I want to see if I can help, and if I can't, again, point you in the right direction. So she calls me for all her problem files. Yeah. I met her because in 2008 we had the crash, and I was doing a lot of modification work for a lot of non-for-profits. Yeah. And she was one of the people that I helped. Wow. And she was the relationship started because I helped her. Wow. So so she saw that as oh, this guy knows what he's talking about. Yeah. And if you help someone first, or you bring them value, they're going to want to do business with you. They're going to want to. Exactly. Yeah, they're going to feel almost like they owe you. I want to do work with this person. They came through for me. Yeah.
I think that goes a long way too. I think anybody who just provides value or helps to somebody without any monetary gains, it comes all around, and they're gonna want to help you or want to do business with you. And I'm sure the seller too of that deal, it's they're gonna want to lend with you or do something because they're gonna feel wow, I need to do something. So it gives them a little more motivation to get involved and just, especially teaching his son too.
Absolutely. So I think it became more of this is a good deal for me, but I want to do business with you. Yeah. And that was the, I would say, selling point, or what started the relationship. Yeah.
Exactly. That too. It's I don't want to just take the house and then run and say, oh, okay, I made this much money, but no, I want to actually work with you. Now you guys are both from Brooklyn. You guys can both collab on something in the future. And now it's I got 150, you got almost 200. Look at what you can do.
We go to lunch. I talk to him about what I'm working on. I'm on your off days, I need a couple of hours of your time. Yeah. And I keep him accountable. So I'm hey, let's text me. Are you free? And then he would give me his time, and we get on a Zoom. I'm going to talk about, hey, I'm looking at this. And he'll ask his little questions, and he'll ask his this. And as he matures in the business and he understands what we're talking about, he'll ask bigger questions, right? Yeah. So, and I'm look, I'm walking you baby steps, and I want to keep the jargon to a minimum so that you understand what we're doing, the principle of what we're doing.
Exactly.
And as he gets better at it, he'll be able to find his, like, you don't have to be my partner forever, but I'd love to hold you by the hand and teach you step by step, like, until you get there. And if I'm investing in the deal, I'm going to be on top of it. So I don't want to just use your money. Let's use our money together on a deal. And then he's as partners, as real partners.
Right.
And he was like, and I'll just bring my knowledge to the table.
Yeah.
And,
Exactly.
And that's a true partnership, right? You have something, he has something. And I mean, going even back to this deal with the partnership, like how does that look like you securing your interest in the deal,
So that's a great question. So I actually thought of you. I was like, maybe I can do this as an ovation.
Yeah.
I've dealt with wholesaling in New York, and sometimes it's good, sometimes it's not. There are a lot of
there are savages here. They will go behind your back.
For than most.
Yeah.
But so I decided, I want to be a partner on the deal. So I explained to him, I want to be on title with you.
Yeah.
But let's set up an agreement of what your net's going to be, and let's give me a time frame to hold me accountable, right? Because if I have to borrow the money, I can just borrow the money.
Yeah.
And he was like, okay. So we wrote it up. We went to the attorney, right? And I told her what his points were, what my points were, and she drew up a document for us, a joint venture, and we got it notarized there, and we went to work. And then I got added to the deed, and I was able to get the funding, and I was able to get a buyer. So even before the funding came in, I got the buyer. So that's just I have the contingent. I got Plan B ready just in case Plan A didn't work.
That's awesome. So you really, okay, because that's different than most people would do it, right? They'd say like, oh, just sell it to me first and then that, or, there's still so many different ways to do that. But is there any other contingencies that you have to put in for that, especially since there's liens on the property too?
So I needed to know when the liens were due. So all my contingencies have to be in place prior to that, right?
Yeah.
So there's a lien sale, I believe, May of 2025. So I have to be done before that. So that was my cutoff.
Oh, right. So you have to be sold completely before.
Yeah. So I mean, I was going to refinance it. I would have had 3 months seasoning anyway prior to.
Yeah, right.
So I did the math, and I'm like, I already talked to all my lenders. I had them all in a row even before I got added to the title.
Right.
So I was already there. I had talked to all my lenders. I'm part of Northeast Gator Group, which is a lot of micro lenders.
Yeah.
So I can get money there if I needed it.
Right.
So I had a couple of outs.
Okay,
And I was
so you had
ready.
different options.
Yeah, so I had a lot of different options.
Right.
So I knew this was a deal, and I knew I could perform prior to.
Right.
So, and I secured lending just in case. And I told my lender, I'm like, I might need you for either transactional, right, where I know I can take you out with the refi, or if I sell it, then I'll just hold you in escrow just in case, and I'll pay you a point, and your money will never leave escrow, just so to show that I needed to have the money there, because the buyer might want me to clear the liens. He might change his mind. Or he might tell me, I'll clear them, no problem. I'll just subtract it from your proceeds. So I don't want to have an option where he tells me that and the money's not there.
Yeah.
So I already had.
Because that was my biggest thing is, right, how do you make sure, because people are cool, right, and then they wake up the next day and like, wait, I changed my mind, or I'm going to do, so how, that's what I was wondering.
We can be cool. We can be friendly. We can, that's it. That's not business.
Right.
So, like, what are the concerns? And then let's put it on paper. My attorney, she's going to advise me, well, Frank, this is a big liability you're taking on. How are you going to counter this just in case the due date comes? Well, I got all my ducks in a row and I got the financing ready for it.
Right.
So just because of that, I was able to perform. I'm like, I got this. So I showed her where I was getting my funding from. She was like, okay. And then, so I'm doing this at the same time as I'm trying to sell it. So I got my title back, and I only had 7 conditions I had to take care of. I took care of 3 of them on Thursday.
Yeah. What were those conditions? Like, what were the conditions?
So because I'm new to the LLC, I have to provide all my LLC docs, right? Which is normal. I have to show chain of title. So on Acris, you can see why the title had been changing from the original owner, who was the owner's mom, to him and his brother, to just him, and now adding me. So I showed why it happened. So I needed the death certificates, and I needed the claims letters. I had that.
Really?
So I collected all those documents prior to.
Where do you even get a death certificate?
From there's a department. There's got to be a department. So once there's a death, where the death is, there's like a place where you can just order the death certificate once it's been established there was cause of death and whatnot, and you went through the proper channels, and you get it from there. So he had his copy.
So you had to get that.
I had to get that.
For that. Wow.
So I got that the second time I met him.
Wow.
I already knew where the deal was headed, So I started building out a
Like,
file.
let's get these things already.
Like, yeah,
taken
so
care
by
of.
the time I went to my attorney to add me to title, I can clear this. Like, this is going to be a condition. It has to be.
Yeah, like,
So-
so you already knew it in advance.
So I already
okay.
knew.
All right, so what were the other conditions then?
3 of them are just to prove that the person that passed his brother is in fact his brother. To prove his mom was his mom. It's all on the death certificate, but there's also an affidavit that needs to be signed. So title's just going to require both of us to sign this
Yeah.
affidavit. So I've already ordered them. And the last conditions would be a final water reading because it's over 5 years of non-payment.
Oh.
So that takes almost 3 weeks to a month.
come back.
Yeah,
Yeah,
for
the
the
cities
because they have it takes. So I call. I have to check every day,
Yeah,
and a $330 judgment on the original owner.
okay.
That's it.
That's the least of your
Yeah,
worries.
that's the least of my worries.
But I think that's important too about water bill because everywhere is different. But New York City, if you think you're gonna close on a deal quicker and then you didn't order the water bill or you know what that is, it can be really hefty and it can take weeks or or even longer to even come back.
Yeah. So as soon as you're getting everything on title, that should be ordered.
That should be your first thing, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Right. That's a good point because if someone's doing their first deal in New York and they don't know that and they're like, wait a minute, I'm expecting a close
So-
with no water bills ordered.
I got a text today, and I'm like, so it's the realtor that found me the buyer, and he's like, hey, our side is ready to close. Is your attorney clearing title? I'm like,
Yeah.
I've been talking to your paralegal from your side
Yeah.
since we got title on Wednesday. I called her Thursday morning.
Yeah, you're like,
Like, these
Yeah.
conditions are already coming in, but there are
Right.
3 conditions that she has to get me the affidavit for. So I know your buyers want to close, but
Yeah,
his own attorney is working on it to get me what I need to
Exactly.
get those signed.
yeah. See, that's
So I told my attorney, I'm like, I understand you're busy, so I'm
Yeah.
going to jump in and start clearing title
Right.
because I don't want to wait 2 weeks before you even look at this.
Exactly.
So,
yeah,
yeah.
that's good. Like you had a lot of things that you were like proactive about, and I think people need to know that too, especially when you're doing business in New York. Like I don't know any other state that takes as much as long to close than New York.
Well, so you got to understand, right? Because it's an attorney state. An attorney they work by the hour.
Yeah.
They have their own cases. They might just be mortgage and real estate, or they might do other things.
Right, other things,
Yeah,
proceeds or
correct.
whatever, yeah.
So their time is limited. They might be in court.
They might be in court.
Right, so they might, so there's no one to review,
Yeah.
or they might have a
Yeah.
small practice or whatnot.
Right.
So it takes a lot longer.
Yeah.
They're not dedicated to just this one thing.
Exactly.
So if you're not proactive about it, or your transactional coordinator is not proactive about it, then things are going to fall through the cracks, and it's going to take a lot longer.
Yeah.
So I already know this is a cash buyer, all cash. He's not going
Right.
to any lending institution.
Right.
So he wants it quick. So
Yeah,
I have
so
to,
you gotta be quick.
yeah, either I pay someone to do it or I do it. I just happen to know how to do it.
Yeah, I think that's so important too because we can't wait for attorneys, right? Attorneys work 9 to 5. They're not up like us, working because they have other things going on. So we can't just stop when they stop. So if there's things that we could do in the meantime, like you said, getting a death certificate, making all those things and making sure everything's aligned. So that way, when they come back, okay, here's the information to kind of push it along instead of just waiting for them.
I agree because, so I gave her a call, courtesy, and I was like, hey, I saw the conditions.
Yeah.
And she was like, I haven't gone through everything yet. I'm like, that's fine. The paralegal gave me all 7 conditions we got to take care of. I'm going to start CCing you on the ones I'm handling.
Yeah.
And it happened to be all of them. So
Yeah.
it is what it is.
That's how it always is. Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, no, I'm excited about it.
Yeah.
I'm excited that I'm helping 2 sub-2 students get their first deal.
that's
At
awesome.
least, and what they worked on, whether it was disposition
Yeah.
or lead generation. So it's great. Like
Right.
I love helping and teaching people
Yeah,
what I'm
what to
doing.
do.
And if the best way to teach you is to be at an actual deal.
Yeah.
Like you learn really fast.
Yeah, and you do, and it's good that you're doing that too. And it's like I think a lot of people were like they don't want to do business in New York, and you're like so heavy on look. I'm doing business here. There's a lot. We're here, and you even helped me change my mindset because when I go through my issues in New York, I'm like I'm done with New York. I'm only focusing on Georgia.
I told you.
And then this Brooklyn deal also for me fell in our lap, and we're like, all right, we're gonna take down.
You saw how excited I got when
Yeah,
you told me
you know, excited.
you have a Brooklyn deal. Wait, why am I
Yeah.
not involved?
Yeah, exactly. So it's definitely something it's taking a while, but it's part of the process. And we know that all right, the property's gonna be good. We're gonna be helping the seller too, find a new place to live, right? We're not just gonna be like, okay, buy the house, forget about you. We're like helping them set up. We're giving them money for wherever apartment they're gonna go. They don't have to do anything, no clean out. So it's like being able to like, yeah, we're gonna get a deal, a flip in Brooklyn, but we're also gonna be helping this family relocate so that way they don't just lose everything and have nowhere to go.
So for me, right, and I love what you just said on that because you're not just taking it as a transaction.
Yeah.
And that's what led me to Pace's community, right?
Yeah.
I met a lot of the people in the community prior to me joining, and they had that mindset, that community, and let's help each other, and let's help, let's help the client or the owner or whatever you want to call that person. Let's help, right? And I've been blessed that I've met like-minded individuals that want to do business in that way.
Yeah.
So I had a deal in Staten Island, and I could have put a memorandum on it, but I got it through Sub 2, and the person that was involved in it, it was her aunts, and she was taking care of them, and she had to put them in living facilities. I could have put a memorandum and screwed her.
Yeah.
Why am I doing that?
For what?
And
Yeah.
She sent me a couple of dollars for my time.
Yeah.
I was more than thankful because I didn't expect it.
Yeah.
And I'm like, no, we found a better buyer than me, coming all cash, and he went over my head by 50 grand.
Oh.
I told her myself, do that deal.
Wow.
I'm like,
Yeah.
I'm not the right buyer for you. You need to
Yeah.
milk this as much as possible because it's to
Yeah.
take care of your family.
Yeah.
I
That's
have
so
that.
key.
I have that outlook when it comes to business. Let's do the right thing. The money will take care of itself.
It really will. Like, I love that because like a lot of people will be like, no, I'm the best person, but like you have to really look at the best interest of everybody.
Yeah,
right?
100%.
Like it can truly be a win-win, and the fact that you're like okay with walking away from a deal to let them, profit more, like just shows your character.
Well, I mean, like I believe that there's enough business. If this deal wasn't the right one, this deal will be. So as soon as that deal died for me, the Brooklyn deal came to my lap.
Exactly.
Like it was magical. I'm like,
no, that's literally how it happens. It's like if you like something will fall apart, and it's like all right, when you do the right thing, and then something better comes. Like that's always how it happens.
So
always.
and yeah, like I should be clear to close in 2 weeks.
Yeah, this is good. So we're gonna follow through. This is good. So I mean, that's all like I'm talking about too with the real estate done right community is be more purposeful, not just thinking about transaction based and figuring out what you want to do and like actually impacting people in a positive way. So I have one like surprise question from you. It's like Diary of the CEO podcast card. So
Should I read this?
yeah, read it aloud and then answer it.
What was the most valuable lesson you've learned the last year and why? Ooh, that's
Good question for
that's
2025 starting off.
I mean, there were a bunch of them, but honestly, I think the best thing that I learned was manifesting what I'm doing and in the time that it's going to take. And I learned that from you.
Really?
When you did, when you told us about, hey, I want to do a 12-week accountability, a 12-week year.
Mondays at 5 a.m.
Brutal. And I know I didn't make every single one of them, but I really had my board up because of that. And sometimes I don't do that as much. And the more I focused on what I need, like a laser focus on what I needed to do and how to get there, it started happening at the speed I needed it to happen.
Yeah.
And I couldn't believe it. I'm like, that just changed everything for me. I'm like, oh man, I got this done. I fixed every problem deal I had. And it didn't seem like it was this world of things that I needed to conquer. I was able to compress it and actually tackle every single thing. Like it almost gave purpose to every minute of every day for me.
Yeah.
And I was going to bed earlier just to be able to wake up early to be able to do these things. So I'm like, I think to me, like, I think we did that, the last 3 weeks of the year.
Yeah, the last quarter of the year.
And the last quarter was my best quarter on everything. I did more in that quarter than I did in the first 3 quarters where I was all over the place.
Wow.
So this year, starting this year,
starting with the same mindset, like instead of like, what am I going to
What was that book? What was that book?
It was called 12-Week Year. So
Get that book.
instead of waiting and doing your New Year's resolution for the whole 2025, like do with it for 12 weeks, right? Try to accomplish that. And if you don't meet them, all right, then you have another 12 weeks to do that.
No, it was big for me. I handled 80% of problems and deals so fast because I put a system behind them. I'm like, I'm all over the place. I got my CRM ready. I'm interviewing VAs. I'll be talking to you about that soon. But I was able to really focus on what I needed to focus on to take my business to the next level and to get my time back. Because I felt like I was all over the place, and then I'll go back to work when I thought of something instead of having everything detailed. Step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4. And I'm going into it deeper and deeper. And every time I do it, it's more detailed than the last time.
Yeah.
So I
See,
love
like,
it.
it's
I
just
love it.
improving. And like we're Virgos, and we actually have the same birthday. So detail is everything for us,
Yes.
the organization.
Yeah, so it's making my life a
Yeah.
lot better, a lot better. So thank you.
Sure. Of course, of course. This is good. This is good. So everybody who's in sub 2 in general or just the real estate community, definitely tap in with us, especially New York. We're doing business here.
Yes.
We have attorneys that do things creative, and also Anchor Light TC, they also do creative, and they're here in New York.
Yep.
So definitely connect with us. Where can they find more information about you too?
Just look me up on Facebook. I'm always open to have a conversation about creative, anything real estate, and if you have an issue, I can probably help you.
Definitely.
To have a conversation about that, capital raising, anything of that effect, and just say hello. I like to talk to everybody in the community and see where I can add value.
Yeah. All right. Thanks guys for tuning in. Don't forget to click the link for Real Estate Done Right community, and we'll see you guys next time.